Back to an exciting episode of the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rachel Griffin, and I'm an actress, model, and a lot of other things in the entertainment industry.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually in business, marketing, and sales. I actually went to college for business and marketing and sales and human communications. But over the course of the pandemic, I decided to make a little bit of a career pivot. So before the pandemic, I was working in sales. I was a pharmaceutical software salesperson, helping to develop out a sales program with a startup company. And then during the pandemic, my idea of what I wanted for my lifestyle kind of changed from a corporate environment to something that was a little bit more freelance. And so that's when I decided to make the pivot into acting, which then also led me down to other realms in the entertainment industry, including modeling, voiceover, et cetera, et cetera.
Very cool. So what kind of voiceovers have you done?
So I've done more ironically on the corporate side for voiceovers. So if you think of like educational programs, if you're thinking of the person like in the hallways of a school that's like, hello, students, we'd like for you guys to come and check out our classes and stuff like that. That's more of what I've done. I would love to get into animated voiceover. I just haven't quite scratched that itch yet. I'm still focusing on the commercial side when it comes to voiceover right now.
Very cool. So in regards to some of the stuff that you've done, whether it be acting or modeling, which do you prefer more?
Oh, that's such a tough question. I would say modeling is a little bit easier, or it comes easier for me. Not to say that it's easy per se, but just making sure that I look as I do in the photos that my agents have submitted me, and I show up, and then whichever product or service it is that I'm modeling for, or even if it's just like a lifestyle type of modeling gig, then you just show up the day of for the most part. Versus acting takes a little bit more preparation on my end because they give you the script that you have to prepare for. So if you're not prepared for that, then you can't really show up the day of and just wing it. So I would say I like the ease of modeling, but I also like the difficulty of acting. And I think long term, I definitely want to go into more theatrical, which is TV and film for acting, and try the different personas that there are. But it's a whole longer of a journey.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how difficult just modeling is in general, especially like long days and things like that.
I will say that you know how people will say sometimes like, oh, have you ever thought of going into modeling? Or especially like when you're in the entertainment world, I guess that's when you hear it a little bit more often. And they are so much more diverse in the modeling industry nowadays than they were even 5-10 years ago. So really a lot of people can get into this industry, but you're right, it can actually be difficult. I remember the first time I went to take digitals, which is essentially like, it's kind of like your calling card for a model. You have to have pictures of yourself in front of a blank wall looking your purest form. And I didn't even know what to do with my face. I was like, do I smile? I heard of smizing, right? You hear like the Tyra Banks top model, you're supposed to smize. I was like, am I doing that correctly? Does it look weird? So it really kind of was just a bunch of trial and error of seeing what kind of worked. And then if the photographer would be like, yes, I love that, love what you're doing, I'm like, okay, I'm actually doing it correctly. And you can see it does translate with the photos when you actually get the even like the proofs, or before the final edits are done, you can see that you're like, all right, she knows what she's doing or she does not. So I'm still working on it to this day, but I think I have gotten better over the last couple months for sure.
So in regards to TV and movies, do you have a certain type of role that you'd be looking for, or a certain type of movies that you'd like to audition for, or TV shows?
Yes, absolutely. So as of right now, I mean, I'll take whatever I can get. However, it's funny because my mom and I, this sounds so cheesy, but my mom and I would always grow up watching the Hallmark Channel, and everyone's like, why would you want to be on the Hallmark Channel? And because it is so cheesy and so, I mean, you always know the plot, no matter what show it is, or if it's like a Christmas story or whatever. But that's kind of like on the side, like, hey, if I could get cast in that at some point, I would love to just show up on like a Hallmark movie, either the murder mysteries or the Christmas stories that they have. But as like a more long-term goal, currently the way that I look, I get typecasted for, it's called 18 to play younger. Basically, you're old enough as to be an adult, but you look young enough to be a minor, like high school age, typically for me. And so I think that realm is really what I'm trying for right now. Either, I mean, there's two different routes. You could go the more Disney animated type route with not necessarily animation, but just like the Disney network, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon. Or there's like the CW network that's like, or like Euphoria style, that's a little bit more gritty. I think that side would be a lot more challenging. But I don't know. There's something about me that just kind of likes the cheesy stuff too. Like I like being a little bit over the top and excitable versus always dramatic. But I love the dramatic roles. I know I'm giving you like not a solid answer for any of these questions because that's how my brain thinks right now. It's just all over the place with a little bit of a nugget of what I'm looking for, which would be like 18 to play younger is my bread and butter right now.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're kind of keeping your horizons open, and it sounds like you're open to whatever may come your way just because you never know when that one is going to be the big break that you need.
Exactly. And I think, too, the more time you get to experience these different roles, the more you can really solidify that kind of idea. I mean, I've played a little bit of drama. I've played a little bit of comedy in much, much smaller productions. And so I think it's a little bit different when you're playing a larger role, either TV or film. So I think I'm like, all right, let me just take a seat and figure out what it is that comes to me and how much I'm enjoying it then versus I do drama versus comedy.
Definitely. So do you have a person or persons that have inspired you in some way or shape to do what you do, either in the modeling, acting, or anything like that?
I mean, absolutely. I think it's interesting because I'm going to answer your question and kind of segue into another thing too. Growing up, people would, or I guess especially right now, people are asking me what made you want to go into acting or even modeling or anything in the entertainment industry because I have such a strong background in business and sales. My personality is very type A. I'm very organized. I like to have things scheduled and planned out. And acting is not that. I mean, acting is very fluid, very creative, very much so. You have to be ready at the drop of a dime for something to come up. So personality-wise, people look at me and they're like, that doesn't really make sense why you would want to go into that. So why would you? And for me, it was always a pipe dream of mine. When you see a movie or a TV show and you're like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Especially when you're a kid and your eyes are just so big and looking at all the people in the TV. That was me growing up. Even though I didn't pursue that until literally just 2 years ago, essentially, less than 2 years ago. But what inspired me to do it, I think, is watching the people around me, especially during a pandemic, be a little bit miserable with their jobs, to be honest. In a remote environment where we're working from home, we're bound to our laptop, we're bound to our desk and feeling like that's what you have to do. You have to work Monday through Friday. You only get weekends off 2 weeks a year. And for me, that just wasn't the lifestyle I was ready to accept. And so I can't say that there's one actor, actress that specifically inspired me, although I do have those that I look up to for sure. I mean, Rachel McAdams, for instance, I love her. I love her backstory of how she kind of got into acting and broke through. She's from Canada, so how she broke through into the American market. And I love watching all of the movies that she is in. However, it was more of like watching the people around me and the lifestyle that I was currently living in a business environment, a 9-to-5 business, and realizing that wasn't the lifestyle I didn't think I wanted anymore. even though that's what I had my eyes set on for such a long time.
Definitely. And I can see how, being a person of that I do the whole, well, it's not really 9 to 5, but I work a full-time job while doing this. And I can see how doing what is opposite of what people either expect of you or like I said, personality trait wise, how different it would be. But at the same time, it's a challenge that would be, for lack of better terms, welcomed. It's something that would be out of the ordinary for somebody to do who's used to one routine and doing one thing.
Absolutely. And to be completely honest, I had a little bit of a stereotypical idea of what acting was before coming into this industry. And I was thinking to myself, oh, wouldn't it be so nice to have the freedom to kind of do whatever it is that I want to do at whatever point I want to. But as I previously mentioned, you have to be available at the drop of a hat, the drop of a dime. And so it's not necessarily even that you're not working hard in this industry. I think I'm probably working more than I ever was in my 9 to 5. And I say 9 to 5, of course, but I'm meaning whatever that timeline is, that time structure is for corporate world. But I feel as though I'm working a lot harder and a lot more often now doing this freelance type of work and lifestyle than I was before, but I'm enjoying it more. So, and I think that's the big difference, because I have plenty of friends and family that work in the corporate world and they love what they do. And so it totally makes sense to live that kind of lifestyle. I just wasn't loving what I was doing. And I was like, how can I figure out a way to not be miserable and living for the weekends? Because that's essentially what I was doing. So now I work on the weekends. I work during the weekdays. I mean, just earlier today I was working, and yesterday I was too. And also the idea of working without pay. I think that's an interesting mentality that I've recently adopted going through this business, is the idea that you're still working even if you're not getting paid for it. Especially, like, a prime example, auditioning. Auditioning is a must in this industry, at least where I'm at. I mean, there's so many people that have to audition in the world of entertainment and the world of acting. It's really, really rare, even if you are pretty successful, to not have to audition at some point. And you're not getting paid for that. You're spending a lot of time doing it, whether it's in person and you have to drive to the audition, or if you're doing it nowadays from home and having to film everything and make sure that you have somebody to read the other lines for you. You're not getting paid for that at all. And the chances of you booking that are very, very slim. But if you're not putting that work in, then you're not going to get the work that actually pays. So that's also been an interesting mindset that I've had to recently adopt. And although it can be a lot sometimes, I mean, I think that I made a really good decision for myself, at least, to try something that was a little bit outside my comfort zone, but it's definitely pushing me.
Yeah, and on the topic of some things that are outside comfort zones, when you're used to, the not really guaranteed paycheck, but the paycheck for everything that you do, I would feel like, just, from somebody on the outside looking in, that doing the auditioning and things like that is more of paying your dues and putting your nose to the grind and just working towards the ultimate goal of, becoming a, full-time professional actor, actress, or, even in your case, a model, and being able to do things that you enjoy, and then having people call you and say, hey, I think you'd be perfect for this.
Exactly. And that happens actually a decent amount in this industry. Is you can do so many auditions with the same casting director and not book a single one. But then a part comes up and they think of you because you've auditioned for them so many times. And then you get that audition that becomes a callback, that becomes a booking, whereas you might not have even gotten the audition in the first place had they not already seen you so many times. Or even making the connections. Networking is so big in any industry. I was always for it in sales, and I'm still for it now in acting. But you could be working with somebody on set or in an acting class today, and then a couple months down the line, they could be calling your phone with an opportunity. So it really is just, like you said, like putting your nose to the grind and figuring out what it is that you need to get done, even if you're not getting a paycheck right now, because it all does stack up on top of each other.
Definitely. So I am curious, in becoming an actress, what kind of stuff did you have to do in the beginning to, if you have an agent, get an agent and start, booking roles and getting auditions? And
yeah, that was something that I had no idea how to navigate in the beginning because I had no connections to the industry. And so the one thing that I was able to rely on is my determination to research. And what I realized is that a lot of information you cannot find on the internet when it comes to the world of acting. I was like Googling so many things, like, what do I need to do to become an actor? And then, of course, all the sub questions that I had from there. And the first thing that I found was, okay, well, you have to join a casting site. So I looked into what are the top casting sites. So I started off on backstage.com. And then I also added Actors Access, and then later down the line, casting networks. And then I started self-submitting to roles. And the roles could be a student film that pays nothing to a little bit bigger roles. I will say that if you don't have an agent, typically it's hard to find the really big roles that are going to give you that so-called break. But that's what I started off doing. I was like, okay, I need to be submitting myself to roles. But then I also realized I need to get a headshot. And I tried taking headshots at home that I was like, these are like clean looking. And then realizing after doing more research, listening to podcasts, watching videos on YouTube, casting directors can spot the difference between a professional headshot and a homemade headshot. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to pay however much money to get them professionally done. And honestly, it made a big difference. As soon as I put up the professional ones, then it was like, okay, she's serious about what she wants to do. And I did a ton of research on like, where do I go to get headshots? I also joined this online course called the Hollywood Winner Circle with Wendy Wright. And I really liked that course because it was kind of like a step-by-step for actors or aspiring actors on how to even get your foot in the door. It talked about where you can get headshots. It talked about what casting sites you should be on, how you can format your resume, because I'm great when it comes to resumes on the corporate business side of things, but it's completely it's differently formatted on the acting side. So it kind of like went over that as well. So that was kind of like my step-by-step tutorial of what to do and how to start when you're trying to become an actor. And then from there, it was just networking, asking around, because really the more you network, the more information you're going to find. You're not going to really find it as much on the internet, at least for this industry, which was a big shock to me. I was like, why don't they have this on the internet? But I guess there's pros and cons, I think, to not having the answers as readily available. Oh, and then real quick, I started doing background work, which is like the extras that you see running through the background of movies and TV shows. I did that. So that's actually the very first time I'd ever been on a movie set, was doing background work. And I did that up until really just a couple months ago. And that was like, okay, I'm going to be able to be on a movie set or a TV show from a really, really big high-end production, so I can see what it is that I really want to be doing, but without having to like worry about failing, my first time in front of a camera. So that was really good for me to get the on-set experience and watch kind of from afar, be able to network with other people, and really just kind of understand certain industry terms that they're hard to Google these things.
Yeah, and I've noticed that doing some of the research that I've tried to do. I've talked to a couple actors, yourself, and I've talked to a guy by the name of Brent Daly, and I tried figuring out where I could go to find more information, and it's pretty vague.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's funny that you mentioned Brent Bailey because that was actually my most recent headshot photographer.
Really?
Yeah. That's so funny. He's actually really nice. I've clearly met him in person. He's really, really nice, and he's getting a lot of success in the industry too.
Yeah, and he mentioned a lot of the same stuff that you did as far as, you know, not being able to find pretty much any information if you want to do it, because I know at one point when I was younger, I wanted to do that, and there's nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing out there. It's like, yeah, you know, like you say, you just gotta have that mindset of go, and just try to figure it out as you go.
Exactly. It is. I mean, it is so tough, especially for people that don't necessarily have the means or resources to just like drop everything and just go fully into whatever it is this world is. It can be tough. So I would say like the biggest thing is just trying to find somebody that you can connect to that has any form of relation in this industry, because that I've received the most information from is people that are here in the industry doing it, as opposed to just looking it up online.
So I know I found you, I think it was on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say so. What social media outlets are you on?
So the two social media outlets that I'm consistently on are Instagram and TikTok. TikTok is a newer outlet for me because I realized that it's just a great way to start connecting with people and getting my face out there even more. So I was like, all right, if you can't beat it, you got to just kind of go with them and embrace it. So that's what I've been doing as of the last couple months, TikTok, but Instagram as well.
And as far as, and I can't remember exactly, you have an IMDb, I think, right?
I do, but it is nowhere near as robust as it should be. I don't actually, so there's, for anybody listening that has no idea what IMDb is, it's basically where you can go to look up actors and what we call their credits. So what they've done in either on an acting side or they have it on the production film crew side as well. And then once you're involved in something, your production will add your credit to your IMDb page. But then there's also IMDb Pro, which is a paid service. And that's where me on the back end, I can edit my page and then request for credits to be added and stuff like that. I have not paid for that service, so my IMDb is not beautiful right now. And there's not as many credits as there probably should be. But technically, yes, I do have one.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you have any upcoming projects, whether it be, modeling or acting or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm currently working with a company that helps with college test prep for students. And they're like connected to a lot of school districts in the Orange County area, but they said that they're also expanding. So I'm helping them with their online courses. I'm essentially like the face of the course and like the spokesperson for the course. So I've just been working with them recently. I have a commercial that I'm on first availability for, which basically means we really, really like you, but we're not entirely sure if we're going to book you yet. So keep an eye out. So I'm on that for a pretty large commercial coming up. And then I feel like there was something else going on. Oh, that's the other thing. I also started doing hosting. So not like hosting at a restaurant, but hosting like game show type of hosting, where you see like those really happy and excited people and they're talking to the audience and interacting. So I started doing that, but in a live streaming form for a mobile game app. And so I'm doing that on a weekly basis as well with this game app called Live Play.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like, you have a career path that is on the up and up. And, I definitely want to see at some point in the near future you being in a lot more productions and doing some more, voiceover stuff. That would be so cool to see.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, that's my goal for sure. I know that recently I've been focused a lot on the commercial side of things, but I know it kind of like it. You go with the flow a little bit. It ebbs and flows. Right now, the flow is commercial right now, but I also intend to be going a lot more into theatrical TV film in like the fall time. So we'll see whichever one starts picking up more. So you might see me in a commercial. You might see me on TV. We'll see what happens.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. I definitely look forward to hopefully doing it again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite, Josh. I really appreciated talking to you, and thank you for taking interest in me. And I hope for sure that we can do it again too.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think I'm crazy, it's just on my mind. Wonder why I